Then he broke the neck of slicked back hairs with one blow. He felt much better now after seeing the gold digger again. He was happy because now he could kill her with his own hands. After all, she was the one who betrayed him in the previous life together with her best friend. After becoming a drought demon, the gold digger's killing intent towards the protagonist became even stronger. She roared loudly as she telling him, "Do you have a dare to touch me now?" Head chef standing nearby was stunned when she saw the creature. She was impressed by the protagonist's strength as he killed the slicked back and his companions single-handedly. But seeing a creature like this, she didn't think the protagonist could survive. Head chef's worry wasn't wrong, because the corpses that were transformed into drought demons before were considered their mutations were not much different, but this drought demon was a little different. A large tail stretched out between her legs, and her teeth were larger than those of other drought demons. Sharp bones grew behind her waist. Head chef was also thinking about helping the protagonist of this fight in some way. She didn't want to be any burden to him. While she was thinking about this, her eyes fell on something. It was a whip. Head chef held the whip in her hand, ready for battle. She called out to the protagonist and said she would also help him fight the creature. After hearing her words, he was a little confused because there was such a dangerous creature in front of him, and she decided to help him instead of running away. Seeing the chef holding a whip in his hand, he felt very naughty. So head chef asked that she did not understand why he was feeling naughty after looking at her. Watching them talk, the gold digger was getting more and more frustrated. Most important, she stood in front of the two of them like a huge threat, and there was no guarantee when she would kill them. Both of them were busy ignoring him and doing talking, as her presence had no effect on them at all. The gold digger roars loudly and attacks the protagonist. She strikes him with her dangerous claws, for which he was totally unprepared. The head chef was shocked by this sudden attack on the protagonist. She did not expect that everything would end in the blink of an eye, but he suddenly activated his superpower rage mode, and the gold digger's claws only tore his t-shirt and nothing else. Seeing that her attack failed, Gold Digger shouted angrily, then launched a second attack with great agility. This time, she wanted to chew him. When she tried to bite his flesh with her sharp teeth, she again failed. Gold Digger tried to sink her teeth into his flesh again and again, but failed. Gold Digger was confused why she couldn't eat him, but he was not bothered by her actions. This scene was like a newborn baby trying to bite you with a toothless mouth. When Gold Digger showed him her power, how could he just sit and watch? He grabbed both hands of Gold Digger and pulled him forward forcefully. Then he put his leg around her waist. When she found herself stuck in such a position, she could not understand what he was trying to do with her. But before she could understand anything, he kicked her with such force that the impact made her jump in the air with great force, breaking her hands. Gold Digger fell into the ground. Gold Digger felt unbearable pain and roared loudly. Although in this apocalypse, watching her suffer from hunger was more exciting than killing him, but she turned into a drought demon, so he had no choice only to kill her. But at this moment, he saw her start eating the corpse lying there. She swallowed the corpse one by one, and then her broken arms began to regenerate. Seeing her regenerate ability, Head Chef and his eyes widened in surprise, after which he started laughing. Head Chef got more confused seeing him laughing, because the regenerative ability of Gold Digger was like a warning bell for them. Now he had a devilish smile on his face, because now he could break and twist her many times. After regenerating the arms, Gold Digger roared loudly. Now she was ready to beat him up to the death, but he suddenly reached closer to her and grabbed her arm. He wanted to see how many times she could regenerate. She was a little nervous because of his sudden approach, but before she understood anything, he started his game and separated her left hand. She screamed loudly. He told her this was just the beginning of the game. He gently moved his fingers on her right hand and smiled at her. Now, the Gold Digger slowly understood what he was going to do to her. Now, a hint of fear appeared on his face. He separated her right hand. She just kept roaring in pain. Then he separated his tail and legs, and now only Gold Digger's torso was left on the ground. Protagonist told her that this was the first round of the game. Gold Digger's body began to regenerate. He smiled like a devil and said, "Let's start round 2. Gold Digger cried when she heard this. She didn't want to kill him anymore. She wanted to run as far away from him as possible. She asked herself, what kind of demon is he? Was she the demon here, or he? Then he immediately began to throw her parts. Head Chef was surprised to see him doing this. She hadn't expected it would be that easy for him to fight with this dangerous creature. He was about to start the 3rd round. The Gold Digger's roar had now turned into a scream. Then the 4th round. After the 4th round, he started 5th round. He had completed a total of 8 rounds, and he found that the ribs, eyes, and tongue could also regenerate. In this way, he separated her new parts with each round. When he reached its 16th round, he found that internal organs could also regenerate. Only the head could not regenerate. But when he reached the 21st round, Gold Digger's body had stopped regenerating. He wanted to dig out her eyes as well, but her body could no longer regenerate, and he was not that cruel. So he left her eyes. At least she could see her own death. Gold Digger's condition worsened because of torture. She cried and asked him why he tortured her like this. As soon as she said this, the protagonist remembered Gold Digger's betrayal in his previous life. He told her that this was his revenge. Then he crushed her head. Then he turned around and asked Head Chef, "Are you ready?" But Head Chef didn't understand what she should ready for. Then he hugged Head Chef from behind and whispered in her ear, "I protected you like a hero today. Won't you reward me now?" Now she understood from his behavior what reward he wanted from her. She hesitated whether to reward him right there or not, but she couldn't resist anymore. He wanted to taste her the power of his berserk ability. After 4 rounds of heavy workout, she feels very tired. She wanted to take some rest, but he didn't. He started the 5th round and told her that was the last day of Heatwave. He was going out for a while over tonight, so he wanted to leave her with unforgettable memories, but she insisted that she wanted to go out with him too. On the other side at the rescue point, when evenings start outside, temperature seems to be normalizing. They think that the apocalypse is ending soon. Suddenly he noticed some people coming towards the rescue point. He notified his general. So she turned and looked at them, but found something unusual. As they got closer, the general discovered that they were not humans, but zombies, of course. Except for the protagonist, no one knew for the time being that they were not zombies, but drought demons. And if you saw them carefully, then you remember that they were the hotel guests. Do you remember that, child? Seeing them, a terrified look appeared on her face. She instructed her junior to quickly evacuate the civilians from the rescue point. Seeing that the general was not coming with her, he became concerned for her safety. She orders him strictly as they don't have much time. They had already attacked the rescue point. Meanwhile, on the other side, he was busy in his 6th round of workout. He told her he wanted people around him to be valuable and to obey his every command without insistence or argument. After that, she understood and ready to follow any of his commands unconditionally. He successfully manages to subdue the head chef by midnight. After leaving the head chef in hotel, he pulls the car out from his dimensional space storage. He had to complete some preparations before seawater rushed in. He was heading in the direction of the rescue point. Many zombies he encountered in his previous life were driven by the obsession of reaching the rescue point and attacked the rescue point. Many civilians and soldiers died in the tsunami. This incident also led to a large amount of military weapons being scattered. This is how various factions formed. Then suddenly some thugs appeared. He aimed the pistol at protagonist's direction and ordered him to stop the car. He was furiously thinking about the audacity of the person in front of him. He could not believe that at such a time, these people would do such a stupid thing as robbing. Thugs came in front of the car and stood as he would actually stop the car for them. Instead of using the brake, he pressed the race. His sudden action made the thugs suddenly scared. They wanted to run away from his direction, but it was too late for them. He crushed all the thugs and headed towards his location. Just like in the previous life, the walls cracked under the scorching sun, and the relentless assault of the zombie wave eventually led to the collapse of the subway station. The number of people who died underground was probably in the thousands. The roar of the car attracted all the zombies below. Unfortunately, not every zombie had a crystal in its head, making it too time-consuming to crack each skull open one by one. He decided to check out the situation at the college first. As he thought about it, he realized this was his first time back at the engineering university since graduation. After putting the vehicle into the space locker, he entered the academy and saw the monster in front of him and the chain collar around its neck. Stranger shouted and warning him that he had entered in their territory and demanding that hand over his backpack. Then suddenly they noticed he was pulling back a chicken leg piece. He mocked them, saying they weren't worthy of eating the chicken legs. The group leader yelled at him, calling him a bastard for messing with them, and ordered the others to get him. One had a baseball bat in hand, while another wielded a shovel. They all advanced toward him with the intent to kill. Suddenly, he pulled his pistol out of the dimensional space and fired it at everyone. After dealing with those 3, he started to walk upstairs. He didn't remember meeting so many fools in his previous life. He wondered if his warning helped more people survive, which led to the current situation. When he arrived at the entrance to the reptile and snake department of the institute, he found the door locked. He broke the lock with his hand. It seemed like no one had been in the lab for a long time. As soon as he entered the laboratory, a rotten smell entered his nose. Many snakes had died, and the air was filled with the stench of decay. But he came here to find something. When he found his item, he heard someone's voice shouting from the entrance. 3 men with arms stood outside the lab's entrance. He assessed the situation. He made it clear that he couldn't tolerate any interruptions from the others. Then he suddenly saw someone running very fast. She was the general. The armed men spotted her. Yes, that's right. They were not here for him. They came for the general. The general attacked them, and she was very fast. They didn't have time to react. She twisted one man's head with her arms and clenched another's head with her thighs. Then she jumped on the 3rd man and twisted his neck. Then someone pointed a gun from behind her. But she was actually very fast, so she used her elbow to divert his aim. Yes. That's right, he was our protagonist. He saw her fast movements. She turned her legs and jumped into the air. Then she twisted his head, but suddenly she realized that she couldn't twist his head. He didn't know what she wanted from him, so he started to do something. I swear I don't know what he was doing, please believe me, she shouted eagerly, wanting to stop him, questioning what he was doing. After that, he tied her up with ropes. She looked cute. She wanted to know who the stranger was and what was going on, and her voice was full of confusion and eagerness. He pointed a gun at her and asked who she was. She authoritatively identified herself as the leader of the Green Tiger Special Operations Team, urging him to be careful and demanding her immediate release. After hearing the name of the Green Tiger Special Operations Team, he inquired if there was anyone from the team who loved to wear pink boxers. She was shocked when she heard that, because there was only one soldier who loved to wear pink boxers. She wanted to know how he knew him, so he told her he once saved his life. Suddenly, he felt hungry. He cooked mutton. His cooking skills were amazing. The delicious smell spread throughout the room. While he was cooking, she told him about a sudden incident. When the zombie horde attacked the rescue point, the soldier took the lead and ensured that the civilians were evacuated first. But to his disappointment, he soon discovered that among the ordinary civilians, a group of escaped prisoners had been mixed in with the crowd, making the evacuation difficult. A gang of criminals took control of the school, holding students as hostages and stealing the weapons. She blamed herself for all this. He heard her whole story while eating the delicious mutton. Then suddenly she realized why he had tied her up if they weren't enemies. The bound general seemed impatient and wanted to be released as soon as possible. He consented to the situation with the stipulation that his head wouldn't be clamped again, as it was earlier. Then she told him if he gave her the fried mutton, she would not clamp his head again like earlier. The atmosphere had gotten a little fun now. After all this was done, he wanted to leave. She said she was unable to provide a lot of help due to her duties, but she was willing to provide some firefighting assistance. She shared her strategy to launch a sneak attack on the enemy stronghold. She emphasized the importance of recovering the stolen goods to ensure the survival of the people trapped in the college. But he urged her to leave quickly and not disturb him, so she was about to leave. But he suddenly noticed that she was talking about supplies. He acted like a helpful man and asked her to wait a moment. He opened the bag and took out the sniper rifle from it. But I don't know why she didn't notice how such a big sniper rifle could fit into such a small bag. Yes, we all know what he did. He opened the dimensional space in the bag and took out the sniper rifle. He stated that her soldier was like a brother to him, so he offered his assistance. He gave her the sniper rifle and asked her to take it to the roof of an opposite building and attack the person he pointed at. In the administrative block where the criminals had held people hostage, the leader of this gang asked his fellow member about the situation. A fellow member reported to his leader that their members had gathered outside, and he expressed his determination to finally attack the students living in the hideout. The boss agreed to the plan and instructed those who were less cooperative to stay at the front so that they could face any potential danger first. Suddenly, someone kicked and broke their door. Everybody looked in that direction. They saw a boy who apologized for interrupting their meeting. One of the fellow members demanded to know the identity of the intruder and how he managed to gain access. They pointed out that there were over 20 people guarding outside. He explained how he had managed to enter the premises. He simply pointed a finger at one fellow member and said, just like that. He pretended to shoot a bullet with his fingers. Suddenly, one fellow member got shot in the head. They didn't believe what had happened, expressing disbelief. They were shocked that he pointed at a fellow member, and then the person he pointed at died. He issued a drastic warning, advising against any movement to avoid a fatal consequence. The leader angrily called him a rascal and asked him to stop his nonsense behavior. He again pointed at another fellow member. She shot him and declared that the target had been eliminated. She cautioned that despite the elimination of the target, numerous thugs remained in the room. She maintained her stance, expressing concern about the riskiness of the plan to lure the enemy alone. She expressed disbelief at having agreed to the absurd plan proposed by him. Suddenly, windows closed by curtains. She questioned the sudden closure of the curtain and then inquired about the protagonist's situation on his end. She heard a jeering voice from her earbuds, who warned the protagonist not to believe he could do whatever he wanted just by setting up a sniper outside. As expected, she was spotted. She instructed the protagonist to find a way to stall for time, assuring him that she would arrive promptly to rescue him. Again, she heard a voice instructing his members to kill the protagonist. She started running desperately to save him. Everything was under his control. He took all the supplies into his dimensional space. The leader remained resolute, expressing certainty that his demise was not an option, as his supporters would retaliate if any harm befell him. He told him not to worry, stating that the members he mentioned would soon be joining him. Then he clenched his neck. She entered the room with the intent to seek vengeance on behalf of the protagonist, but the scene inside was surprising to the general. He said she was too late. She expressed surprise and asked him how he accomplished all the tasks single-handedly. He explained that he had been exercising regularly. Furthermore, he found that supplies were scarce, indicating that they were already starving and weak. She asked if anyone else had already raided them. She expressed concern about the fate of the students, as the supplies had now run out. He stated his willingness to share some of the supplies he had just collected with the others if necessary. However, he emphasized that this depended on their behavior. He issued a command to proceed, indicating that they were going to the girls' dormitory. She questioned the reason for heading to the girls' dormitory. He said he had asked Soldier to gather other students there. In this room, there were some corpses tied up and hanging from the ceiling. Amongst them was a woman who, unlike the others, was still alive and had heard their entire conversation. Upon seeing that protagonist had supplies, with a murderous look, she decided to do something about it. A gray-haired man wearing a metal mask began approaching the administrative building. He was looking for a girl who had fled and caused trouble again. He entered the building, and with a surprised look, he began to wonder if she had died this time. Upon entering the room, one of his subordinates informed him that the captain was still alive. Upon searching a bit, the man found a rope. He quickly grabbed the rope and began to lower the woman. The woman fell to the ground. She slowly started getting up. She had pretended to be a prisoner and had been hanging here for several days, so he asked her if she had found the sensation she was looking for. She began to look down at the ground and told him that she had had a close encounter with death, so she needed his comfort. Upon hearing this, he took out a whip, held the handle with one hand and the rope with the other, then turned his body towards her. He stared at her intently and asked if she was sure. She sat on the ground, turned her back to him, and prepared herself to receive the lash. Upon seeing that she was ready, he gave her a strong whip on the back, causing her intense pain and making her start screaming. He asked her how she was feeling now. Far from feeling pain, she had enjoyed the lash. She put her hands on her cheeks, closed her eyes, out her tongue, and replied to him that now she felt much better. The man sat on the couch, placed her on his lap, turned his head slightly towards her, and upon remembering that she had seen everything, asked her who had stolen his supplies. She explained him in seductive style that the one responsible for this was a demon. Upon hearing this, he turned his head towards her, and with a smile asked her to tell him the appearance of that demon, since he was going to make him pay. She turned her head slightly towards him, and with a serious look revealed his appearance to him. At the same time, he and General arrived at the girls' dormitory. Upon entering, she asked Soldier how he was injured. He reassured her not to worry because he was fine. He also added that it was great to see that she had returned. Soldier was injured and had bandages on his abdomen. While he had one hand over the bandages, he began to stare at him and asked him what was he doing here. Upon hearing this, General turned towards him, and with a serious look, she explained to Soldier that he said he was your savior. He didn't give him any chance of speak, and with a very concerned look, he asked about his injury. As soon as he removed the bandages, a claw mark could be clearly seen. He explained to him that somehow the injury was becoming more serious day by day. He placed his hand under his chin, began to look at his wound, and revealed to him that the culprits were the gluttons, creatures that fed on humans, carrying bacteria and viruses under their nails, representing a deadly risk without medical intervention. Upon hearing this, with a loss of hope, he explained to him that now medicines were scarce resources and could not be found at all. Despite knowing this, he was not willing to die like this. Just before he could finish speaking, he threw some medicines in his direction. He quickly grabbed the medication. Seeing so many medicines, both he and General seeing medicines with a shocking expression, she quickly turned her head towards him and asked, where did he get so many medicines, while he was holding the backpack. He slightly turned his head towards her and calmly reminded her once again that he was like his brother. In his previous life's official organization, there was a man whose combat power was comparable to a human-shaped nuclear bomb and was known as the God of Strikes. If he was that person, then his investment would not be in vain. With a serious look, he told him that now he owed him a favor. He knew that he definitely hadn't come here specifically to deliver the medicine to him, so he asked why he had come here. At that moment, he informed everyone to evacuate immediately because Big Flood was approaching soon. Upon hearing this, they were somewhat confused. He explained them that the extremely high temperatures had caused a rapid melting of the glaciers, resulting in the intrusion of seawater. Consequently, the entire school was going to be flooded. Suddenly, one of the girls who was in the girls' dormitory took a step forward and began to yell at him. She wanted to provoke the others not to believe his nonsense, and told others that he only wanted to them all away in order to monopolize the school's resources. Upon hearing this, he simply started looking at the girl and remembered something. She was his classmate, a wealthy heiress and a famous female fighter in Technical University who enjoyed creating conflicts between men and women. While she was provoking others, she noticed that he was holding a backpack. Upon seeing this, she immediately asked him if there was something to eat inside. He refused to answer her question, then she tried to snatch his backpack. With the blink of an eye, he slapped on her face. Her cheek had swelled. She spit her broken teeth from his mouth and yelled at him how dare he hit her. The students who were nearby couldn't help but praise him, as she had been causing a commotion in the dormitories. Furthermore, she occupied a dormitory all by herself, and because of this, she had been despised for a long time. Having money from her family was useless now. Everyone wanted her to leave. He slightly turned his head to the side, and upon hearing this, he realized that she wasn't very popular around here. In a matter of seconds, she lost her composure. She started screaming and threatened them how they, miserable lowlifes, dared to oppose her. She also added that she was going to go to her father and tell him to kill them all. After saying this, she left. Seeing her behavior, she asked him if it was good to let her go. He told her that it didn't make sense to stop her since she was looking for her father. After leaving girls' dormitory, she murmured that all men in this country were worthless. There was no comparison with foreign gentlemen. While she was lost in her thoughts, someone began to approach her from behind. This person was Steel Teeth. He quickly covered her mouth and inquired about Protagonist. Upon hearing this, she started trembling and couldn't help but feel afraid. After that, he also left the girls' dormitory. General and Soldier approached the exit and began waving goodbye to him. With a serious look, he decided to let General take care of the evacuation. He took out his phone and thought that the most important thing now was to harvest the Snake King once it mutated. Didn't know if he could obtain the ability to control water. While he was lost in his thoughts, a truck approached the area and someone started asking him for help. He began to follow the trail of the voice, and as he turned a corner, he saw that this voice belonged to this girl. Steel Teeth had captured her and tied her to a crane. He approached her, started staring at her, and mocked her by asking if she had found her father. Upon hearing this, she ruthlessly asked for help once more. Steel Teeth climbed onto the truck, extended his hands to the sides, started looking at him, and introduced himself as Steel Teeth from the Evolution base. After saying this, he stared him with a smile and asked him how dare he steal his supplies. He had thought that Protagonist was a man with 3 heads and 6 arms. With a serious look, he began to stare at Steel Teeth and asked him if he really was from the Evolution base. He started hitting the roof of the truck, turned his head towards him, and with a smile replied, "Correct." He also added that for this meeting, he had prepared a special gift for him. At that moment, the back door of the truck began to open. Inside the truck, there were several dozen of zombies. Do you guys remember that child? Steel Teeth extended his hand to the side, and with a smile asked him if he was ready to die. He simply put his hands in his pockets and stood still silence.